Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, April 17th, the anniversary of the safe return of Apollo 13 back in 1970. And that is prescient for more than one reason. We'll get into why I think so, but obviously the Artemis 2 landing
just a couple days
very
ago.
recently.
Yeah.
It's crazy. NASA's now doing this where there was going to be one more mission where we don't go to the moon, and then one mission where we go to the moon, and then from the moon, we go straight to Mars. That's going to take, 6 months to 9 months to get there? It just seems weird that we can do that.
They've been talking about Mars ever since 2020.
They've been talking about Mars forever. That's always been we can Terra Nova it.
For all mankind?
Yes, of course. But they did it by the 90s, I think,
yes.
For all mankind. Yeah, so it's also strange that if you think about it, back when Malcolm in the Middle premiered, people were getting ready to see Mission on Mars, the fictional movie. And so it was
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it was January 9th, 2000. It was Y2K hangovers people were just getting over those. This was one of the first scripted, if not the first scripted show of the millennia.
Wow.
It was a mid-season replacement. It aired right after The Simpsons, which helped it out a lot because it was an immediate hit.
I feel like the only thing that's more beneficial is after the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, no, this was the Super Bowl. It was actually in January that year. No. It was a sitcom without a laugh track, which was also quite different. And it launched Frankie Muniz's career.
Yes.
It did help with Bryan Cranston later on. He would obviously go to Breaking Bad and stuff. But Frankie Muniz was the dude for a while.
The kid in the 90s.
Yes, the kid. It went from
2000s.
Olsen twins to Macaulay to Frankie Muniz and then Dakota Fanning. And then I lost track because it was there's too many kid actors after that. It then eventually made its way to the Stranger Things kids. And we sort of see that mentioned in the Life's Still Unfair. But so Dakota Fanning actually appeared in one of the earlier episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, I think in season 2.
I was going to say that would have to be probably pretty early.
And the funny thing about season 1 is if you look at the episode titles, I think it's the third or fourth episode that it's called Malcolm in the Middle or Home Alone 4. Which makes a lot of sense because,
Macaulay Culkin didn't appear in Malcolm in the Middle, though, right?
I don't think so. I don't think Macaulay did. But it's about a dysfunctional family. If anybody hasn't heard it, who's tuning into this, it spans 7 seasons, Malcolm in the Middle did. It ended in May of 2006. Its finale is really well liked, kind of like how when we did Scrubs and we talked about season 8.
Right.
Not season 9, but season 8 Scrubs. They really liked the ending of that.
I did watch Malcolm in the Middle when it made its way onto Nick at Night. At that time, Nick at Night had Family Matters, also Glenn Martin DDS. That was also a big thing that my elementary school was watching.
What is Glenn Martin?
It was this weird stop motion show. For some reason, my elementary school really liked Nick at Night, but I remember talking to some of my friends about Malcolm in the Middle. A couple years later, I think they even picked up Everybody Hates Chris, and then FX also started airing it during the daytime, I think in the years of 2010 to 2012. But I did check out the finale of Malcolm in the Middle, and what I remember, this is over 10 years ago, but from what I remember, I think he became valedictorian. He ended up giving a speech, and then he becomes a janitor, I think, by the very end at school.
I don't think I ever saw the finale.
Oh, wow.
I watched classic episodes. They're ones that just replay in my head.
Roller skating
when Dewey
episodes.
Screws over really messes with the nanny or person who would come, the babysitter.
That, I think, was the first season finale, wasn't it?
It may have been. And then, the roller skating episode, the one where Hal, I think, is buying Christmas trees or selling Christmas trees.
Yeah. And
I feel I'm also combining that 70s shows.
No, because every single one that you're mentioning, I know which episode.
So wasn't there also an episode where Kelso buys Christmas trees?
Yeah.
That's why it's confusing to me. Yeah.
Well, and you have That 70s Show connection, right? Because you have Christopher Masterson and then Danny Masterson as well.
I have a speed round for you of 10 questions, but first I wanted you to relate a little story because I remember you telling me a long time ago that in 2nd grade, you know how people have show and tells?
Yeah.
I remember bringing stuff in for show and tell, but that there was one dude who knew a dude who kept making the promise.
It wasn't 2nd grade. It was 8th grade, but
it was way later.
Yeah, it was in middle school. It was 2012, 2013, and there was this guy who was very much in the industry. And what I mean from that is sometimes he'd bring in guests newscasters. I remember there was even a football player once. But the main thing, and he even would show us text from Frankie Muniz, was that he knew Frankie Muniz, and he's
so he says,
yeah,
these are Frankie Muniz's texts.
I like to believe he was telling the truth because he was guys, I'm going to try very, very hard this year to bring him in. I know that he's very busy, but like I think I can make it happen. And everyone was so excited. And then like as the months kept on going by, I remember it was like a specific day in April. He came to the front of the class on that Friday, and just all the life had been taken from his eyes because he was always very charismatic and very, very funny and like kind of full of life. But this time he was just like, guys, I'm so sorry. Frankie, he wants to come in, but he's just not going to be able to this year. And everyone was just destroyed by that because we all wanted to see Frankie Muniz.
This sounds like the Henry Cavill storyline about like his nephew who was teased as a kid and like by telling people that his uncle was Superman.
Yeah.
And then he went in with him one day and like showed up all the bullies who had been talking to him. Were you one of the bullies who were making fun of this guy for knowing Frankie Muniz?
No, but I think the first time that he was like, Frankie's not going to be able to come in class, I know this, like some students turned towards the door because he thought that he was building up his entrance. But fast forward a couple of years, and I learned that my friend in my freshman year of college, who was a waiter, actually waited for him that past week. This was like 2017. So this is well after he had become a race car driver.
So your life just keeps on like orbiting Frankie Muniz.
It's just not getting there. I haven't met him yet.
It's weird how kids in the 2010s were still really, really liking Malcolm in the Middle because like back in 10 years earlier when Frankie Muniz was in Big Fat Liar and Agent Cody Banks and Agent Cody Banks 2, and I think they may have made a third one, I don't know.
Racing Stripes.
My Dog Skip. I don't think Racing Stripes counts as one of his big movies, but it seemed like he was going to make that leap, just like Lindsay Lohan. But then neither of them really did.
Right.
You know?
Right.
They kind of like took acting off.
It was honestly Bryan Cranston, I think, that just had the most successful career, which if you had seen the show, you would have sounded insane.
And he was already a comedian. Like he had done a lot of comic stuff. But yeah, so I've got a speed round for you just to kind of throw you back into that Malcolm in the Middle universe. Some of these questions do apply to the new show.
Okay,
Life is Unfair.
Because when it starts off with a montage of like all the old clips, I was surprised to see how many episodes they pulled from that I actually knew. So
yeah, there's a bunch of questions here. Just go through them as fast as you want.
Right.
Who's a better dad, Eric Foreman or Malcolm?
Malcolm, because Eric Foreman in that 90s show just like leaves his kid for Red and Kitty and then leaves.
That's all right. Who has a higher IQ? Because these were stated, young Sheldon or young Malcolm?
Oh, that's hard. I know Malcolm's was like I think it was like 180. I'm going to go with young Sheldon.
Yeah, it is with young Sheldon. Young Sheldon has a 187 and Malcolm has a 165.
I think 187 might even beat the person from High Potential, the main character.
It's a made up number. Like they didn't actually test this kid. Okay, yeah, whatever. How many Mastersons were on Malcolm in the Middle?
Okay, I think it was 1, but I know that Christopher Masterson was on that 70s show.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
But, like, you got that completely wrong. It was 3.
What, 3?
Yes. Do you want to take a guess as to who?
Well, obviously Christopher Masterson, but
yes.
I don't know any of the other Mastersons.
Oh, you didn't fall for the trap. So it wasn't Hyde, but it was Christopher, Jordan, and Alana. Alana, they're both half siblings to Christopher. Alana is Tara from The Walking Dead.
No way, really?
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that.
Did you know that the Mastersons are cousins with Angus T. Jones?
Oh, from 2.5 Men.
Yes.
That's insane.
Which also was around at that same time.
Talk about nepotism.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, like, it's weird because their family is so big.
Right, I mean, like, because those were huge comedies at the time. Yeah.
I wonder if they all kind of mixed into Scientology. I'm not going to go through down that avenue too much, but that's crazy. Emma Stone, Miley Cyrus, Janet McCurdy, and Hayden Panettiere. What question is this?
Which one wasn't on Malcolm in the Middle?
And which one wasn't?
I absolutely know Janet McCurdy was because she details it in her book.
Do you want me to name them again?
Yeah, please.
Emma Stone,
okay.
Miley Cyrus, Janet McCurdy, or Hayden Panettiere.
I'm going to go with Miley Cyrus because I feel like her career was a little bit later.
You don't think a young Miley Cyrus could have made it on there? You were right. Yeah, there was no Miley Cyrus. Bryan Cranston brought up Malcolm in the Middle in 2 other comedies that he did. Or not just comedies, 2 other shows that he did. What were those 2 shows?
Oh, I have no idea.
This one's a lot easier than you think it is.
Breaking Bad could not be one, right?
A deleted scene in Breaking Bad. You remember that?
No.
Oh, apparently not. All right. And then the other one was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, Breaking Bad. You're talking about the alternate ending. Where even Lois, the actual actor, shows up. They were making fun of Newhart. I was going to say it was that, and then also It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He kind of plays Hal there as well. I feel like he's the one who's wanted it to come back the most.
Here's the question for you, though. Besides being called Mr. Malcolm in that, what else does the team call him?
Mr. White? I don't know.
Mr. Middle.
Mr. Middle.
Which kid did Aaron Paul legitimately try out for in Malcolm in the Middle?
Well, I would say Malcolm, right?
No.
No, Reese?
No.
Dewey?
No.
I have no idea.
Well, what's the last one?
Well, there was Jamie, but I
Nope,
mean,
you're
like,
thinking, come on.
oh, Francis?
Yes, he tried out for Francis and didn't get the role. I'll accept either answer.
Yeah.
Fez's last name or Malcolm's last name?
Oh, I don't know. Because Fez, we don't learn the last name to,
And neither
ever,
did
right?
Dewey to Malcolm. It's an on-running joke, except for the pilot where they have it like on a note card or something like that. But everywhere else on like all the post-its on their shirts and stuff, it always says like no last name.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I never even realized that until you just said it.
Mr. Malcolm, Mr. Middle.
We do not know Malcolm's last name.
Yeah. But otherwise, it would have been easier to say Eric Foreman or Malcolm blah, blah, blah. Which ended first, That 70s Show or Malcolm in the Middle?
Okay, That 70s Show ended in 2006.
And so did Malcolm in the
And you
Middle.
said Malcolm in the Middle also ended in 2006.
Do you remember what month that 70s Show ended?
No, it would really help, though.
May.
May?
And do you know what month Malcolm ended?
I'm going to guess June?
May.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say That 70s Show.
Malcolm by 4 days.
Oh, my God.
And then the bonus
Fox
one.
was just, they were losing shows left and right at that time.
I think this was a graduation experience. I think they were actually happy with it. Bonus question. Rank these psychedelic trips that you've seen. Billy Magnuson in Audacity.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle, Life is Unfair, the most recent one.
Yes.
Bryan Cranston from The Studio, the finale of that. Remember he was tripping in that?
Yeah.
And then Tim Robinson's trip in Friendship.
Okay. Well, I think that Tim Robinson, he just orders a Subway, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to put Bryan Cranston from The Studio because we never see his perspective when he goes on that trip.
Uh-huh.
And then,
So this is least to best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Billy Magnuson probably as well because he's just doing drugs kind of like throughout the whole entire episode.
He does seem by the end to have gone through a process and felt better about himself. So yeah, I'll give you that.
And then, Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle, he shouldn't be alive. The amount of drugs that he took were
He took
insane.
a bunch of microdoses at once, which I assume just came out to a really strong dose.
But still, he's like having he's like seeing himself a more successful version, and then that version is telling him to like kill his family. I think that one probably got the most crazy.
I would agree, except the Tim Robinson one, it's funny. It's almost the exact opposite, where he went under thinking he was going to come out of it a new man, with an epiphany.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what Cranston ends up doing, or Hal ends up getting here. So to segue into straight up conversation about Life's Still Unfair, let's talk about the good, the bad, and then episodes 1 to 3 in a chunk, and then episode 4. Because I think that it does need to be separated. I feel like the whole series was set up for the finale.
I would agree.
And so, and then we'll give your ultimate rating.
Okay.
So the bad news here, I'm going to go through that, is it was created by a boomer, Linwood Boomer, the creator.
Okay.
And it's been 20 years. So like, as much as people want to like hound people about how they looking old, like of course they're going to look older.
I think
20 years have gone
I
by.
think the reason why people were hounding them, and it's a complaint I had, is because people like Reese, characters like Reese, were still trying to act like they were 12 when they were supposed to be like in their 30s. And I think that sometimes that didn't translate as well as they were hoping it would.
Yeah, I would say in the first couple of episodes, mostly for me, when I saw where Reese was at in his life, it did feel a little depressing.
Right.
But Dewey's recast. So now it's Newey. That's
and there's always one, isn't there? Because I have a list here. iCarly Revival, Janet McCurdy, Saved by the Bell, Dustin Diamond, That 90s Show, Danny Masterson, Party Down, Lizzie Kaplan for season 3, and then Will and Grace, Shelley Morrison.
All for like completely different reasons.
Yes, all for different reasons, but they were all main characters that just didn't come back.
Dewey was a tough one, but at the same time, I would prefer him rather than, I would think, most of the other characters because he had the least lines.
Yeah.
And he was easier to like shelve off into kind of Zoom calls the entire reboot. Same for Jamie. I guess they didn't want to bring the baby back. But yeah, so this is, I would also say, less a reboot and more of a special. Since it's 4 episodes, and it also feels like those episodes aren't individual.
Well, do you think that this would have worked better as a movie? Because I know that's what they originally were going to do. And then they kind of pulled like a Snyder cut where they were like, let's just split it into 4 episodes.
I wasn't aware of that, but that makes sense to me. I also feel like the Hulu ads didn't help anything to this thing. Those are long and they were placed very weird.
Yes.
And so it did not help the experience. And finally, Bryan Cranston was like pure AI'd. His entire performance was AI.
I doubt
so that's the bad news. The good news is that this was the biggest premiere for Disney of the entire year. Yeah. So 8.1 million people logged in to watch in the first 3 days.
We wanted to see Frankie Muniz back. Yeah, we wanted to see Malcolm.
And a lot of people, like Guardian, gave it 5 stars.
Wow, the full series.
The highest rating you can possibly give it. Roger Ebert loved it, came back from the dead to love it. And then it also did us a favor, I think, as an audience, and spared us the backflashes. If people want to go back and see Malcolm in the Middle as a young kid, they can see all 7 seasons. They don't need and they don't want 4 episodes, just nostalgia driven.
Yeah.
Look at this, old pictures of ourselves.
I think that I would give Bryan Cranston's performance in these 4 episodes 5 stars because you can tell how much fun he is having playing Hal. I know we talked about Dewey not being there, but I thought that they handled his absence the best way that they could.
Recasting someone who sort of looks like
him.
And
they didn't have him in too much, yeah, and I think the computer kind of helped. Whenever they showed him, just normally, in the Thanksgiving argument or when he was playing the piano in the finale, you could tell he kind of looked different because it wasn't him, but I thought that they went about it the best way.
Yeah, and if you've seen what he actually looks like now, he does look quite different anyways. But the bad, again, the fan reception has been mixed. New York Times didn't like it that much. Hollywood Reporter and Screen Rant also said there were things they could have done better. And I felt personally that they were more concerned in these 4 episodes with sort of an Easter egg placement of all these little things in the backgrounds that you could make callbacks to. And a less priority was given towards original new jokes.
I would agree with that, and I think that a lot of the jokes just fell flat. They were jam-packed with them, but Hal's drug trip I thought took way too long. Leia and Tristan working together to kidnap Malcolm.
Right, so let's talk about the first 3 episodes now. So there's a lot of buildup in these, and it tracks with one storyline. Everybody's trying to get to the anniversary, the 40th anniversary, except for Malcolm.
Right.
So, yeah, what are your complaints or pros?
Well, there was no intro song. I wanted to hear the intro song. They put it over the end credits, but what they did with Life's Still Unfair is they basically pulled in Everybody Hates Chris with the revival there, where they just used one little part of the song. But Malcolm moved on from being a school janitor and is now the founder and director of a food charity. Right?
Yeah, he's pretty successful.
Yep,
he's driving a nice car.
Unused food goes to people who need it. I thought that when we were following Malcolm in the first episode, that was probably the best part of it, as well as the ending. And then the only family member he is still in contact with is Kelly. What do you think of Kelly in this show?
Oh, that's a tough question. It falls under so when I was watching it, it wasn't my criticism originally, but I saw it echoed so much that we have to talk about it. Why spend so many scenes on new characters, including Kelly, when there's a good chance that this is just a one-off? So you have Kelly and Tristan and Leia, and out of the 3, I would say Kelly was probably my favorite because even in the first scene where they're introducing her and he compares her to the mom's character and how she would guilt trip him, I felt like that was an adequate comparison. I felt like also she won me over when I saw later on she was wearing a Babar the Elephant t-shirt. Who makes that? Who knows what Babar the Elephant is now?
I don't even know what it is.
I know. That's my point.
And then in the finale, I thought that she was given, probably the best character moment as well. But Malcolm also has...
because she's non-binary. Is that what you meant?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And then Malcolm has a daughter named Leia, who, and that was very annoying to me. I got flashbacks to Saved by the Bell because Leia has inherited his 4th wall breaks.
Didn't know you could do that.
And it's kind of a funny thought if you were to think about it, but I was just annoyed because I was I don't want to hear her have to break the 4th wall.
Right.
I think Malcolm could have done it because when Malcolm does it, it made sense because he was the only smart one out of his family. So you kind of had to hear his inner thoughts.
It makes sense though that they took the majority of the family and they put them still under the roof of the original Malcolm in the Middle house. And so you have the interactions between all the family members in one form or another, except you have Malcolm and he's 9 hours away.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jamie and Dewey are in their own verses too. But Malcolm's storyline and his family's storyline don't converge until the end of the first episode.
Right. So Hal and Lois are celebrating their 40th anniversary. Francis, he's living in the garage with pregnant Paima from the original series. I was glad that they stayed canon with that because I think he got married in season 3. Reese is a kind of handyman. At least he's helping Hal with the bathroom.
No, I don't even know what Reese does, but I know that he's internet famous. Yeah. Apparently he uses his dad's a lot of people were kind of mad that he didn't take up the cooking thing. that he had
Right,
become like a chef.
because yeah, he was amazing in the TV series. Also, it felt like they were ripping off Drake and Josh. There's an episode where Drake and Josh realized that Megan did basically the same exact thing that Reese did here, so that connected me with that. But then also you have Dewey. Yeah, he's a musician, a world tour musician, so he's not showing up a lot. Jamie's a Coast Guard. Kelly, they are the youngest, and then they're also the people that tell Hal and Lois at the end of the episode that Malcolm's not going to show up to the anniversary.
Right, but it wasn't until the end of the episode, right, where Lois and Hal make their way, that journey all the way to Malcolm's place.
I was
They
surprised.
Daenerys it. They jump that distance in no time.
And this is the exact moment that Malcolm is introducing his girlfriend Tristan, who is a physiotherapist, to Leia.
Yeah, to his daughter.
Yeah.
And so that's like a big moment in his life. And then his parents walk in and everybody's shocked to see each other, not because it's just, oh, there's grandpa and grandma, but instead they're alive.
Yeah.
So like he's kept this strong distance where he's basically told everybody that his parents were dead,
Right.
which I feel is a bit of an overreaction.
Well, I thought
even for Malcolm.
it overreaction, yeah, but I also was a little surprised that that even happened because I feel like Hal and
funny.
Lois. No, it was hilarious. I thought it was the best part of the pilot, but like the fact that they knew where he lived, it wasn't like they had to figure out. They knew where he lived, but didn't know where his daughter or didn't know that he had a daughter.
Yes.
That was the part where I was like a little confused. But yeah, Hal is just so overtaken by overwhelmed that he needs to sit down, and then Malcolm's about to explain everything, and then takes off running down the street.
It makes friends with the horse by the next episode. Yeah, Cookie.
Yeah.
By the next two episodes, the parents kind of disappear. Like Hal and what's her name? Sorry,
Lois.
Lois go back to their home and have their interactions with their kids, and they're worried about planning their 40th. But they don't stick around to really make friends with Leia. They only talk to her via the computer for the rest of the series until the last episode. So really, it's just about Malcolm being convinced or actually dragged by the end to the anniversary, despite him saying he doesn't want to go. Now, I have a couple complaints overall.
Right.
One of the big ones here for the first 3 episodes, most importantly, is that the brothers didn't get much time to interact with one another and one in themselves.
It takes until the finale before we even get an interaction between Malcolm and any of his family members.
I mean, we do see in the first episode.
Again, aside
there's
from
a
that first
really,
episode.
really small clip where he's like arguing over grandma's grave and stuff like that. But he's trying to explain why he doesn't go see his family more often. Reese gets to have a little bit of a tiff with Kelly throughout the entire 3 episodes, but there's nothing between Francis's character. Francis was just as bad as Malcolm.
Yeah.
In fact, there were episodes where they almost like traded off who could be more annoying to their parents or annoying to each other. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more angst in that.
Here they just gave him the storyline with
He's
his
about to be dad.
mom. Well, he's about to be a dad, but also he's trying to like move his way up on his mom's list because the mom doesn't see it as that important that he's about to have a kid.
He makes a good point. He says, I think mom sometimes just does things to annoy us. And I think that in the back of her mind, she really is excited to be a grandma. But she found out that she's actually already been a grandma, but a grandma for the second time. And she just doesn't want to admit to that to Francis. And that's the type of like dysfunction that we see very often in Malcolm in the Middle. However, it did feel like they were just prolonging these jokes throughout 3 episodes rather than just having a 30-minute thing where it reset, which we're used to. It was like there was that. Hal's nervous breakdown took 3 episodes to get through. Even the drug trip, he's either catatonic or he's coming to a revelation, and that's just his character. I think by the 4th episode, it pays off pretty well. But again, these 3 episodes are kind of a slog if you're not a fan.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%, because I found it funny at first when, and I was glad to see all the cameos like Craig and Abe and those people, but I found it funny at first when Hal took the drugs in episode 2 and just took a ton of them. But yeah, episode 3, it takes like this full revelation before he finally realizes that, like, you know, he's cutting this cake that he's imagining, and it just keeps on coming back. And
they
he's
had
like,
fun with Bryan Cranston. They brought in the old director. They brought in the old writer. And they just like, I think, ran with it. But it does feel like they didn't cut it was all just preparation.
Right.
Everything was preparation. And so the last argument I'll make is that Malcolm also keeps saying that he doesn't want to be part of his other family because he becomes more neurotic around them and he becomes more or less of a person he likes. He doesn't seem like all that non-neurotic when he's plainly around his daughter anyways. And I know he sort of says that at one point. He's like, "Would you really want to see me even worse?" But like he's already throwing temper tantrums.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me of like when Michael would come back in Arrested Development and he would act as if he was smarter than everybody else. And is Michael, right? That's
Yeah.
Jason Bateman's character.
I think so, yeah.
Yes. But then you would realize sort of that he always was a problem, even if he's away from his family. That's how I take it
And
from
also,
Malcolm.
I thought that there was some, like, very awkward just humor, like, jokes that didn't work. Like, Tristan, when she's, kidnapped Malcolm and they're going to the reunion, she's
The
talking
backstory
about yeah, like, how she ended up shooting someone that was a
it was all
stalker.
just to make the joke that she's like the titty bandit or something like that.
Right, but, like, I was just like, that seems like such odd placement, it didn't really work for me, and so after the
There are
first.
episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, the original, that kind of had that kind of like wonky throw in backstory though.
The first episode, I was willing to give rope because we did get a lot of cameos, and like you said, it was mostly just setup. So I was going to give it a 5, which was completely average. Episode 2 and 3, I was going to give a 4. 3 was probably my personal least favorite out of all of them. And I was wondering if before the finale, because I didn't have much hope, if this was possibly going to be an honorable mention on my worst of list because I wasn't enjoying it. But then we got to the finale, and I don't know about you, but this was my favorite by a large margin.
Yeah, the first 3 episodes, the last were few and far between. The last episode was pretty solid.
Yes.
Going into it, it's the anniversary episode. It's
Yeah.
the 40th anniversary. Everything comes to a head. It proves that stupid, because it still is stupid,
Oh, very stupid.
can be very funny, and that they can still pull it off when
And
they need to.
And they had, yeah, just enough heart in it. I thought Finn Wolfhard shows up as the only non-show cameo in the whole entire series, which I found to be funny.
Well, they have a lot of cameos in the last episode, returning characters.
That's what I was saying, non-show cameo.
Yeah, I think people also liked the returning jokes because those aren't Easter eggs. Those are straight up old material. And the thing that people really liked was like Stevie tipping over, like he does
From the
in
first episode, one of the funniest parts. Yeah, I was laughing pretty hard at
when
that.
she denies him his he proposed like near the end
Malcolm
of the episode.
proposes to Tristan, and she says no. She
He's
still wants
motivated
to.
by his parents.
And there's just this awkward silence, and then suddenly, yeah, Stevie
Tries to
falls
save the
over.
And then Francis struggling with confetti was probably my favorite part of
The
the episode.
second that they showed Francis at the top there, I was like, they're making fun of Carrie, and just the confetti bag falling on Hal and then Francis right afterwards, I was laughing pretty hard.
He nearly killed his dad. And then he fell on top of it, which caused almost a confetti massacre. Like people were literally doing the internet meme of barfing rainbows.
Well, again, yeah, it was making fun of Carrie with all the blood, and they were having to go underneath the tables.
Well, people didn't choke on the blood and die in Carrie.
If you've seen Carrie, they were making fun of Carrie. There's no question about it in the finale. That's what they were doing.
I actually disagree. I don't think they were making fun of Carrie.
You haven't seen the movie. I have. They 100%
No, I know what
were.
happens though, and that felt like it was still a celebration. It was just that they did not plan. Like Lois is the only one who didn't know it was coming, and it wasn't supposed to be a negative thing.
Yeah. Well, I thought
I don't think it was Carrie.
I also thought no, it was, but I also like you're just wrong about this. I know for a fact, but I did like how they looked as well at the very end of the episode. Francis and Hal just covered in glitter. It was like Tobias from Arrested Development. I also thought that there was a strange comparison I'd make to The Bear because Carmi in season 3 of The Bear, you know that he's just kind of very haunted by Joel McHale's character from his time in New York, just hounding him. And I think it's even in the season 3 finale where he's following Joel McHale to the bathroom. And it was very, very similar to Malcolm and Lois's talk in the bathroom because they were... No, listen. Obviously, Malcolm in the Middle was going more with the comedy route because they even had Craig in the back having flatulence.
Well, that's the thing I wanted to bring up, though, is like that's a conversation that clearly was supposed to be the basis of, besides maybe the moment with Kelly where she's saying that her dad helped her become or like figure out that she was non-binary. But like with that exception, I think this was supposed to be the heart of the episode. Right. And they chose to set a background of just a fart track.
I would have preferred it had they left it out, but the reason why I was comparing it to The Bear is because the main character is just kind of laying loose on this authority figure. They're very mad. They're like, there's a reason why I've kept my family away from you. You put so much pressure on me as a kid, and you did all this stuff. And then Joel McHale and Lois in this episode kind of flip it back around and they go, yeah, but A, family is obviously very messy, but B, I put so much pressure on you because you became a success story. You were able to actually do it.
She didn't tell him that. What happened was he had realized that as he was shouting off, you made me be a good dad. You made me have to like put my daughter over like my career and not be selfish and stuff like that, where he was like, all these things are actually good. And even though I was manipulated into them, like he had that realization in and
But
of
she
itself.
told him that she was getting him ready for life,
True.
and I'm saying that, like, that is very similar to the bear as well.
I think it's similar to most people. Like that's the thing that Malcolm in the Middle, I think, was able to do was it went to the extreme in a lot of the cases where you were watching this family and you were like, my family would never do that. And then
Mhm.
it would hit you in the other side of your face and be like, actually, sometimes in a weird way, your family's a lot like this. And I think dinosaurs did the same thing. So yeah, there was also, I think this would have been the perfect opportunity for them not to have had Leia's storyline up until now, where she was at high school and had her then break the fourth wall. And like at the very end, when Malcolm in the Middle is talking, if they would have looked at each other, she would have said something to the audience. And then they would have had that eye contact. And then they would have realized like
This
they
whole
do the
entire
same
time.
thing.
Yeah, this whole entire time she's actually been able to, like, hear what he's been saying almost.
Right. I was thinking more along the lines of like, well, that would be a stepping grounds if you wanted to move the series forward, because that's what it felt like they were trying to do, is like a backdoor pilot sort of for the first four. However, the show runner has said not so much. They said this was presented as a 4-episode arc that was just supposed to be a one-off.
I
So
can see it as that way. Yeah, I give the overall show, including the finale, a 5 out of 10. Again, which is completely average. I wouldn't mind having a second season, even though you said yourself that that's probably up in the air at this point. But that's why I would give the show.
my least favorite part of the finale was probably Hal's full ceremony where they were giving him props. Like, I understand it, but it was almost too sappy for the show. And it feels like there were other moments in the first 3 episodes where people said that they flanderized some of the characters, and I
Mhm.
can understand that argument. I can also understand where, like, the Hollywood Reporter said, it's kind of just sad to see where these characters ended up in life over time,
When you really
specifically
analyze it,
Reese.
yeah.
Right. Like, him having to depend on his dad, like doing those old YouTube stunts where he's like filming his family undercover.
Mhm.
I did like the joke where they brought back Francis's old community, or like his old
His
like
cadets. Yeah.
cadets, yeah, or the people who were in military school with him, and they cut off Jesus's head or whatever. So
I also
ulti-
liked Hal's, like, all his poker buddies
ultimately,
came
I think
back.
the finale just like on its own stands above everything else in this series and makes the series, by like, if I was to recommend it, I would say just watch the finale. 6 out of 10 for me because of that, and 5 out of 10 being average. And I would compare it almost to Apollo 13.
Hmm.
I'll finish it off by saying, yeah, it's kind of like Apollo 13, where it's a sequel mission. Everybody's excited for it, and then things start pretty rocky, and it never reaches the moon, but it's got a satisfying ending, a satisfying landing, you
I'd
know?
agree. Yeah.
So thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Did you enjoy this one, or the Everybody Hates Chris cartoon better?
This one by far.
Okay. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.